Hello everyone, welcome to Spectra 2025. Today we are going to talk about uh, a very interesting topic, how to think about differentiated AI offerings and capabilities. And in this we have a panel of both providers as well as enterprises. Uh, in the age of Gen AI, the boundaries have kind of gotten blurred in terms of what the tech creators and the users can provide, right? And the enterprises today stand on a shared ground of foundational models, competing to deliver intelligent solutions to drive value within the businesses. With this access democratized, the new battleground is really how do you differentiate uh, amongst yourselves? How do you differentiate between providers? How do you differentiate between providers and in-house teams of enterprises? Uh, how do you how do you think about solving real problems, delivering real ROI? And so today we've got a very good panel of both providers and enterprises, and we'll touch upon quite a few topics within this theme. Before we get started, would love for opening remarks from this panel. Radhika, if it's okay, we can start with you. Very quick opening remark on the topic.
Well, thank you so much for the kind introduction, Sid. I'm really excited to be here today with the remaining panels, as well as, thank you so much for that opportunity also to be a part of this, session. So, yes, I agree with you, and the theme, right? The democratization of generative AI is definitely reshaping that competitive landscape for everyone, whether it is, established enterprises or whether it's a startup or a service provider. So end to end, there is a transformation happening in the industry, and that's been going on for the last 2 to 3 years. So, so how the startups really benefit, and it's a level playing field for everyone now because of the generative AI and the cloud-based models we have. So startup really benefit, by this kind of a democratization by, they can rapidly prototype and deploy solutions without much of upfront investments. What established enterprises can do is look at their own, areas and business processes, and they can innovate and, streamline and, have those operational efficiencies in place. So service providers, it presents a mix of challenges and opportunities in this era, in the sense that there is a diversion or a disruption on how service providers, serve the clients. Unless there is a competitive advantage, it is really difficult to, survive in this kind of market, right? So we are talking about accessibility levels of generative AI and cloud-based models, but accessibility is only one part of it. The two differentiator arises from how organizations can harness these technologies and co-innovate and build those enterprise-ready generative platforms that can solve real-time business challenges, and how the service providers can help the clients not only adopt generative AI and the new technologies, but also realize its full potential. That is a true differentiator, is in my opinion. So I am seeing a lot of increased collaboration between enterprises, between partners, the service integrators are there, then, and service providers definitely, in accelerating these kind of innovations. For example, IBM Watson X AI and data platform that can be used along with the decades of engineering expertise we have to co-create those AI infused applications that can solve strong business challenges. So while accessibility and democratization is there, the true differentiator is how we can help enterprises solve those business challenges.
Thank you, Radhika. Revin, any opening comments from your side?
Yeah, thanks, Siddharth, and thanks all of you. Yeah, really excited about the discussion. I feel like with the advent of AI that we've seen over the last couple of years, more so I would say maybe the last year, right? I think this is becoming a more and more important conversation about what can provider firms provide versus enterprises. My overall thought process here is it has to be maybe a mix of both. Given the fact that when it comes to provider firms, it basically means what can they provide and kind of equate the leveling field for all of us, and basically make us all equal in the sense that what are the features that we can provide that are basically accessible to everyone. But I think enterprises can drive the so-called IP construct of AI here, right? Like what is native to me that I can provide using the LLMs that are out there that can differentiate me with everything else or every other company out there, and basically kind of rise me above the competition that's there. So I would just say I believe it's a mix. You have to pick and choose and kind of drive that. Obviously, enterprises and using and deploying those AI models is quicker, and building something on your own is slower. So yeah, I think it has to be a mix.
Thank you, Ravin. Seema, any opening comments from your end?
Yeah, thank you, Siddharth, and very excited to be part of these panel discussions. Yes, I think the AI is really driving the incredible values at the enterprise level, and what we see that the economic incentive what it creates across the value chain of the business, across all the function, whether it is store operation to the customer marketing, it is creating the value. And what we've seen, like even McKinsey has said that there are almost like 310 billion additional value can create by the AI itself into one of the retail sectors there. And even Nvidia said that next 18 months 95% of the retailer would use the AI. So definitely we can see that the AI going to transform the entire value chain and the business and the value it create. But it's very important that how we provide the differentiated value by the provider, because what I see, the enterprise expectations are keep changing. Very soon they have come out from the staffing requirement to the outcome based. They're looking how the complex problems are solved by the providers there, rather than asking for hence is you deploy a certain model, but they're looking at what is the outcome has come, what is the ROI has come there. So I think the enterprise expectation to meet by the provider has to go a little more deeper to see that whether I'm putting the right kind of domain expertise, whether I'm really able to solve the complex problem and providing the ROI of their investment. That is what we have to bring onto the table.
Thank you, Seema. Vivek, any comments from you?
Yeah, and thank you so much. A beautiful panel to be a part of. Difference one of the biggest differences from what I see here is that as an enterprise architect, it is potentially for the first time in the last 3 decades of my working experience now, with all this emergence of AI, Gen AI, cloud, interoperability, blockchain, quantum computing, the importance of EA is becoming becoming significant. I think maybe that could be a reason I spun off as an independent venture potentially now than earlier. So I go to the boring parts of what is needed, right? Because today what's happening is my clients are asking questions in terms of not just what AI offers as functional, but is it formidable? Will it be a differentiator that we can bring in play? And this goes back to maybe the principles of how ready are we to adopt? And typically that goes into the internal working, like are the entities well defined? Is the data definition done effectively? Is the governance established? Is interoperability available? Is the overall governance designed with an intent to drive success, which is quantified? I think this is typically something which forms the foundation. And any differentiated offering that we're trying to bring in from a standpoint of either provider or the enterprise lens, first should look at the foundational entity representing an enterprise and its transformation value that will bring in play. So look forward to a good discussion today.
Thank you, Vivek. It's boring, but it's arguably the most important. No one's going to deny that, Vivek. Thank you. Subro, any opening comments?
First of all, thank you very much. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. And obviously, I agree with the panelist, and it's a great question. So my thing, my understanding was the great at the many challenge for the enterprise AI adoption, and even the most skilled AI vendor can miss the market. Don't fully understand the real dynamic inside large organizations. So in my experience, the biggest gaps around the context, integration, and the accountability.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Thank you. Thank you. Um, we'll just so now what we'll do is go through a quick round of questions, right? I think when we think about Gen AI as a level playing field, because of how this has evolved, how tooling has evolved, right, and how accessible some of the models have become to a common business user, right? Revin, as a data leader of a digitally native company, right, OpenSook, how do you feel Gen AI has democratized capabilities that used to be really exclusive to big tech? And you've worked in a lot of big techs as well, right? Do you see a lot more adoption now? How do you see this from an enterprise lens?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for the question, Sid. Yes, short answer is yes. There's definitely a level playing field now, but also it's about who's adopting it quicker, right? I think for now, yes, like you said, OpenAI APIs, Google APIs, open source LLMs have leveled our kind of playing field. But if you look at our competition, right? If I'm basically talking about classified companies like OLX and so on and so forth, none of them have basically kind of developed a product offering yet on the basis of AI or on the basis of these LLMs and AI based product offerings like chatbots and stuff. So it's about who can basically kind of start the race or kind of enter into this race per se. So it's like you said, yes, it's a level playing field, but I still feel it's really early in terms of where we are. I think it's just out there and it's more kind of democratized from a tech perspective, but I think from an implementation perspective, I think it's still very early, and it's more about like who can really get out there. But I think one more point that I would like to add is at least what this has done is it's made people think about data more than AI. I think because what has happened because of that is there's this famous line that I've read here and there. There is no AI strategy without data strategy, right? So I think at least what this has accelerated is people to think about data teams, data strategies a lot more than AI, and I think that's the right.
Makes sense, and that's in line with what Vivek was also trying to say in terms of the boring has now become the new cool, right? So, thank you, Revin. Radhika, as a working in a large services organization and and being in the space for a while, right? What kind of disruptions have you seen in the recent past in how you serve your customers, or how enterprises are getting served by the providers, right? What kind of internal dynamics and pressures does this put in on the teams in how do you differentiate yourself, how do you prove yourself to the customers? Would love to get some insights there.
Yeah, definitely. As an employee of a service provider and servicing some of the clients in AI, there is a lot of excitement in the industry from different clients from different industry segments about what are the art of possible of generative AI. So even the service providers cannot be left behind, right? We have to keep up with the talent. There has to be a complete vision from a service provider end. So basically, I agree with Seema, what she answered before, right? From being providers of, people, now we are looking deeper into how we can generate those cutting edge innovations in generative AI, which is tailored to specific industry domain, and which can solve those business challenges of specific customers. So challenges in terms of competition, because again, as per Ravin's talk before, there's a lot of democratization that is happening. So there is a lot of competition as well, which comes to it. So every service provider feels that, and everybody has to, be one up of another to provide those cutting edge technologies to clients, because this is a level playing field now.
Yeah. Thank you. Seema, any comments? Because you've also spent a lot of time servicing enterprises. How have you seen that change in the last year or two?
Yeah, so very good question, Siddharth. And as I said, that it is changing very drastically. The expectation of the enterprises have been revolved, very fast. As I mentioned earlier, also that there was a time when the enterprise was looking us the Gen AI or AI involvement to automate the task. Looking the market support kind of thing, or data analysis, or the any such kind of work. Now the expectation is that how do we solve the complex problem quickly, right? What is the how do we improve the productivity, how we reduce the cost, how we bring the more sales, how do we improve the customer satisfaction. So the gone are the days when they were looking people to have a kind of time bound hours kind of job from the provider. Now they're looking how do we bring the outcome, what outcome we are bringing. So it's bringing the pressure onto the service provider to bring the ROI of their investment. So that has
Yeah,
become very important. So when you start the engagement, it's very important that both of us align on to how to measure the success, right? That's become very important. So it's no more that you are deploying some kind of LLM models or you're deploying some kind of AI models under the line, but we talk about what business problem we are solving it and how we're going to serve it as an outcome. Okay, that become the change here. And I
yeah,
think the pressure lies higher now, not only having the team of the AI and engineering within the provider, but a strong domain expertise along with
yeah,
that, right? And design and domain become the strong factor,
yeah.
because who is going to use it is become very important, and what are we driving has become very important. So that kind of pressure is becoming. So AI, engineering, design, and domain become the team now at the providers.
Makes sense.
Yes.
And Subhru, to that effect, right? You in your roles across the different enterprises you've worked with, you work with both in-house teams and external providers, right? And where do you think the needs of the enterprises is most misunderstood by the provider, and where a joint model has really worked? And any tips you could share from there?
Yeah. So in your first part of the question, my understanding, there's a lack of domain understanding.
Yeah,
Means suppose the provider often unappreciate the complexity of the industry specific process and the regulation. For instance, suppose as a consider as a healthcare AI provider may build the technically sound model, but it does not align with the HIPAA compliance or the clinical or it's or not get adopted in the finance, healthcare, or governments provider may not fully understand regulatory demand like GDPR, HIPAA, SOC2. Also, there's some overemphasis of the model accuracy. Provider can fix on the performance metric like accuracy F1 score, but the enterprise more about the optional impact, relatability, interpretability, how the solution integrate with the existing system. Vendors may celebrate the 85% model accuracy, but the business asking did it reduce the churn or did it fraud loss by the 10%. Same for the understanding of the change management. Uh, some workflow for the UI UX training and the adoption filter. And also I agree with the Sima, as she mentioned, there's some misalignment of the ownership and the ROI. So this is the kind of thing I think this is the issue. But obviously the joint ownership close this gap. In my previous one project in my previous organization, we worked with the logistic company. They are the delivery the route optimization project. So it's a cut cost and the reduce the delay. But what went wrong initially, the provider proposed the algorithm using the historical delivery times and the traffic data. It worked well in the simulation, but in practice, driver ignored the suggestion and why. So the model actually did not factor in the driver shift time, local regularization, real world variables, kind of the unloading time, customer availability. So the AI team never spoke directly to route manager or the driver. So the pivot the co-development model, the joint pilot team when the key changes. So the project using there the embedded collaboration, the cross-functional team was formed with the data scientist, operation manager in actual drivers. AI team drive the delivery agile iteration and the shared success metric. So then the result, obviously, after 3 months, the pilot showed the 15% improvement of the delivery time against and the trusted like that. So this is also another experience in my present company for the predictive maintenance, the same experience. So my lesson for the joint ownership, AI project fail when they are built for the enterprise, but they success when they build with the enterprise. So that's my suggestion.
Yeah, and I think getting closer to the business, I think, is or making sure the models are relevant to the business or the customer who's getting served to is a very important piece. Vivek, you've helped enterprises set up innovation roadmaps and advise GCCs on AI strategy, right? What principles, what structures ensure that a provider enterprise collaboration doesn't fizzle after a proof of concept? How have you seen sustainability really work in in scenarios such as this?
So interesting question. So see, basically what happens is that in order to arrive any of these structures or principles, which ensure that the initiatives are not just a splash in the pan, but basically into long-term strategy, I kind of divide my work into 3 parts, or basically when I engage with clients, I look at it from a three perspectives. The first perspective is that there's a very important focus on coaching the leadership, because coaching of the leadership typically tends to plot the organization's expectations over, maybe, for example, I use a simple quadrant in which I look at operational efficiencies, business growth, differentiated products and services, and a differentiated model of delivering these product services. Basically, it's both the definition of the product services and the ability to deliver them. If you plot leadership on this quadrant, typically I've been able to see 3 archetypes on this. So you look at something called as a cautious pragmatist, somebody who's an optimist pragmatist, and then somebody who's an effervescent optimist. And I think based on that, my definition for how I engage with them changes, because if somebody is an effervescent optimist, you have to actually start controlling their willingness to spend by first bringing in pragmatism to what you should spend on, right? So it's both ways the balancing act. So that's part 1. Part 2, what I look at is, and I think some of that has been alluded by both Subro and Seema, is on the changing dimension now. So I think a lot of time now we are moving away from very ambiguous, short-sighted, non-existing enterprise Gen AI strategy towards maybe what we are calling now is a more cohesive, either a segment or a division-centric model, which means that, for example, so one of the entities I consult is a pharma entity. An entire R&D could be one such division. If you focus is only on, say, quick automation of HPLC codification by using Gen AI language translator and generating a Visio output, which can be pushed into machine for automation, it would be very simple, very siloed, but it can never maybe impact the entire thing. So one is that we kind of evaluate from a domain-centric approach. Second element is obviously from an approach of organization change management. Most of the time now, our expense on OCM is about 2x the time of what you spend on actually next gen solution, right? Aspects around maybe the trims, as they call it, which is basically trust, risk, and security, because this becomes an important element. Subro alluded to GDPR and a few other elements that comes into play here, and I think they tend to start guiding the overall framework for this. Besides, obviously, having a well-defined supply ecosystem, because you need to understand what the supplier capabilities are, what kind of a COE they can bring in for you. And that is typically where you start merging between your ecosystem. Supply system is an extension of your entity, not an external entity per se. So some of these are important aspects, besides obviously support function like finance, legal, taxation, and sustainability, because they play a role. And the third dimension that we look at is that every time I engage an organization, the first thing I do is I take them through a very simplistic 12 capability area assessment model. So it is typically divided into strategic capabilities, into operational and governance capabilities, and sustainability capabilities, typically around 10, 12 areas, 88 practices. But the predominant focus, if you were to kind of look at where things fail, is the entire aspect around the data architecture and governance and technology architecture and resilience around that. That's an important aspect. And organization development is an important aspect, because the workforce needs are changing very very fast now.
Vivek, I think these frameworks also go a very long way in terms of making sure the organization is ready much before they take the plunge.
Yes, correct.
In terms of, right? And I think that's super helpful. We are almost at the top of the hour of the time that we have, Vivek. Thank you for that. A very quick rapid fire in terms of what is the one AI myth that you think should disappear in the next 12 months, Radhika?
AI myth. Okay. So everybody thinks that AI is conscious or has feelings. Okay. Especially I've seen some recent news report, where people are asking about our Operation Sindoor about AI. So it is not. Okay. AI
How
is
to
a
solve
bunch of,
everything?
yeah, I mean, it's just math and data predicting patterns and algorithms behind it. So absolutely, there is no ghost in the machine. So yeah, that's the
Vivek?
myth I want to disappear. Yeah.
I think I'll go back to the basics. I think there's still a lot of clout around what really is AI. Like, how do you define AI, right? I think we've started calling rule-based algorithms and machine learning as AI as well, and I think that's a pitfall right now. I feel, and
Makes sense.
a lot of people have started doing product offerings which are basic rule recommendations and calling themselves AI products, and I think that
Yeah.
maybe should go away.
There's a lot of AI washing that is happening. Seema?
Yeah, I think one thing which I would like to probably AI is a myth is that AI is infallible, right? We believe that AI is out of the box, right? It will always give the correct result. So the way the human intelligence, the way the human behavior, it is that you have tendency to speak lie, over the period of time. You learn that. So even the AI can give you little inaccurate results, right? So you have to get that kind of bias out, that it is absolutely always going to be correct, right? And it will learn its own behavior over the period of time. So that is something I wanted to get it out in this.
Makes sense. So Vivek?
I say AI is, so the myth I would want to break is basically saying AI is not mainstream. AI is definitely mainstream.
100%.
AI is quantifiable, and AI has to be treated as though it is any other fabric in the business. Till we consider it as something external and somebody else will help us do that, I think we will be still in the early stage of what we saw during during the ERP revolution, the cloud adoption revolution. Same thing continue here. The faster we learn, the better.
Thank you. Subro?
Yeah, so my suggestion, I think everyone mentioned that my business does not need an AI strategy. So, but every organization should consider the potential impact of the AI on its strategy and then investigate how the technology can be applied to the organization business process. In many ways, AI exploration is same as for government space, automation, the cloud-based enterprise, and the competitive disadvantages also. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We're almost at the top of the hour. We had a very, very good discussion, 30 minutes of lots of ideas. To summarize, I think as we look at enterprises, right, expectations are evolving. There is a lot more outcome-focused expectation in terms of what an enterprise looks from the providers and from its own teams, right? Enterprise look for art of the possible and are constantly looking for newer ways to disrupt for AI to disrupt the businesses. But at the same time, the leadership needs a lot of coaching to understand, what can really be possible within the DNA of that enterprise, right? I think the other big piece, without a doubt, is the boring data work is now becoming the new cool in terms of what really needs to be done so that the enterprise can really make AI sustainable. And I think there is a very significant value that providers can add while in helping shape the strategy, governance for the enterprises. I think the other piece that we really talked about is how providers are now becoming instead of providers of pure talent to providers of real problem solving for the enterprise, of how shaping outcomes for the enterprise, and that's becoming a true differentiator in how enterprises really look at providers as well. And so measuring success, therefore finding the right frameworks for defining success is also becoming very important. All in all, thank you so much, each one of you, for being a part of this panel. I think this was a very good brain tease to kind of just think about how how enterprises and providers can truly differentiate. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Siddharth.
much.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.